the kittens. They had to know the difference in the names. You know, there's some they call them the nicknames. Mick on the hill and the mouse.
You know, we used to go by where they come from. There was a crowd from the bog and a crowd on the hill. Yeah.
Yes. So many with the same name in a town land had to have a distinction, so they would call them nicknames.
And did the Carolins have any nicknames?
Oh, I'd say they did. We were Bessies, I think.
The Fiddler Dailies. There's one of the Fiddler Dailies.
So what was your dad's name?
McEntee, Joe McEntee.
And did he have a nickname?
Joe the Tie.
We were Farleys. And we were the Jim Terrys.
What had you know?
The Butlers.
And have you any idea why he's called Joe the Toy?
I've no idea, but I know he used to teach us a lot at Christmas time that we were getting no toys for Christmas. There's a lot of toys around the house. The forge was our bread and butter. If he didn't make 2 shillings in the forge, we would have nothing to eat. He made his own cut-throat razor to shave himself. He made his own scissors to cut his own hair. He made the tongs. He even made his own wedding ring for my mum out of a 6-penny piece. And that's the little anvil there that he made it with, the wedding ring. He'd put the 6-penny piece there and he'd keep tapping it in.
Like, how important was the forge to the community?
Yeah, well, they'd come and they'd get work done, their horses shod when they'd be cultivating the land. They'd come with the harrapins, and he used to have to point the harrapins and do what they call the coulters for the ploughing. And he was presented with the trophy here from the community. Well, all I know really and truly, he never got half paid for the work he done. Because I used to have to ride for miles and miles on a bicycle to go to collect money for him. And when I got to the house, they wouldn't have the money on them. That's the house he built. He built his own house, so he did. That's the forge there, this one. That's what was taken. It was down on the table just after us getting it back the day after. That's Mum and Dad. That's Maggie.
Joe used to play the accordion, and that was for Joe. Then he'd come into the kitchen, and he'd play, and we'd all start to dance. Such.
That's so lovely. Why are you laughing?
I can see us. That.
How many of you would there be?
Oh, there wasn't room to sit down. I said, round the house, and mind the dresser. But wasn't he good when I think of it? After working all day in the forge, come in and take down this and play music for us. You see, there was no such thing as going to the pub them times. That was out of the question. No one went to the pub in them days. It was all of what they call a Cayley house.
And who played the music?
There was a Daily man, and he was in America. And he come home and he used to play the violin. Oh, they live at Mulla, you know them now. Oh, what's her name at all? I know.
The one Martha Smith. Was Martha Smith? Tiddly. Tiddly Smith.
But it's funny you think Low Cross I'm called Kathleen, and Mulla I'm called Kitty. I was Kathleen Daly at home, I'm Kitty Smith and Mulla. So that's me. Everybody played music then, because the simple reason there was no television and there was great entertainment. Like, you know, like Nanny for time would take down the fiddle in the middle of the day and playing the fiddle in the middle of the day, and Tom Joe Carn, and I remember Tom Joe around the floor, but with Nanny in the middle of the day dancing. Imagine.
People are very distant now. I see people children going to school and their mothers in the morning and they're on this tablet and they're talking to this tablet and they're meeting their neighbour, don't even know. My brother and I go up to Missy's every Sunday. That was the entertainment. Playing hide and go seek through the wind bushes. And in the middle of it all that, Missy would have a pancake. She'd make a pancake on the open hearth fire in the ordinary oven. And I can still see the pancake and the lid on it and the coal on top of the lid and it baking. And then when the pancake, she called us down. She would have burned the bloody mouth here. But we didn't know whether it did or not. We ate it and there was plenty of sugar in it and we enjoyed it. Farley put in the floor. And poor Missy was wondering how was she going to pay for the floor. So he decided, well, you know, says Ned, what we'll do is give a dance and that'll pay for the floor. So we give the half of the country was at it. Father Macaulay read our name out on the altar for having, didn't that right?
Well, you told me that.
Yeah. Poor Missy. You know, such innocent times.
Missy's was a great house,
Yes.
Missy Keaton.
Yeah.
And everybody being Missy's, even Sunday after Mass that start coming to Missy's.
Yeah.
And she was a great person, like she never minded how many she had in the house, you know.
That's right.
Are they happy times?
Oh yeah, yeah. It didn't cost anything. Well, there was no way we had pocket money, you know, we had to manage as a group, you know, trust the men to drive us. We walked a lot and then I got a bicycle. You see, when I went to London, I was earning money, so I could buy a bicycle when I come home. So I was able to go to different places all around Cornikill mostly, Mulla. Virginia wasn't a great town for socialising. They were very proud, stuck-up people in Virginia. I hope I'm not insulting anyone, but you couldn't have fun in Virginia. You'd have to go to Mulla. You had a bit of crack in Mulla.
Did you ever hear of Jack at the Bog?
Jack in the Bog. Will I ever forget him?
What kind of stories?
Well, so one that comes to my mind was he got sick, and there was a dispensary down in Lynch's Arena. The doctor used to come there every week. So Jack wasn't feeling too well and he went down to the doctor at the dispensary, and he must have been bad enough. The doctor gave him a bottle and told him to go home and go to bed. So Jack went home and he stayed in bed a few days and he must be getting alright. He was getting tired in the bed, and he went back down to the doctor the following week, and he went back down and he asked the doctor when could he rise. So the doctor said, as soon as you go home you can rise. Someone used to tell too about Jack, he used to make porridge in the morning and it would be as thick and it'd be jumping in the saucepan, and then Jack would go out and he'd milk the goat in on top of the porridge. I don't know how true to be telling these stories anyhow. At Christmas, we'd go to midnight mass, you know, heading off on a moonlit night and the ground crisp under our feet. You know, there would be a lovely frosty night and you'd be walking on top of the cattle tracks. That time the cattle wouldn't be in at all around the winter, and they would mark the land, track the land, and we would be walking on top of the tracks and seeing all the lighted candles in the houses. It was a great memory to have. I never would ever forget that.
Michael Carlin wrote about it or sang about it.
That's right, yes, that's right. He did. Yes, he left out nothing now, you know, even the neighbours, the Stahan, everything. Midnight mass, everything.
Up and tell me, friends of old, with whom my heart of gold was spent and crossed that dear old sunny clime, as time's ungrateful hand It changed forever our land. A song and story, Christmas just a rhyme. Though I'll never see again a dear home in the lane, till I often think I hear the old folks speaking low, as they sat in their easy chair by the Yule log blazing there on Christmas Day in Ireland long ago. Does the sun as of old wear a crown of brightest snow? The friendly people live there still. Oh, the rustic style I pass on my way to early mass, to the chapel on the top of Old Cross Hill. Is the mass before the dawn still chanted on that morn? Does the choir still sing the amid the winter snow? As time left a stamp of care on the fair ones that sang there on Christmas Day in Ireland long ago. Does the soccer preach as strong as good kind old Father John, whose inspiring words so fluently did ring from the great high altar there, with his Cavan rich and rare, praises of the newborn little King? Do the friendly neighbours greet each other when they meet, and wish each other that old wish? And on that peaceful night to their home they invite, and sit around the tempting Christmas tree. It was not the naughty prance, the so-called tango dance, that they around the floor then would go. 'Twas the reels and Highland fling, but the old folk would sing on Christmas Day in Ireland long ago. Tough. Where about the whisk? He was a native of the Hollow Lane, and he emigrated to Australia in probably over 100 years ago. He was thinking of home, and he reminiscing about Christmas, and he sat down and wrote this song, Christmas Day in Ireland long ago.
So do you have fond memories of the Hollow Lane, Thomas?
Well, sure, not that much, because I'm kind of afraid to go down the holiday.
Why?
The other one.
Why?
I said the gang coming up and down the lane, you know, the gang, and you know, the brave lads have faced them gangs long ago.
Oh, this is good. I haven't had it. I haven't had this perspective of the Hollow Lane. I'm excited.
You know, lads go out that time at night. She wouldn't that on television, right? But the gang of them, maybe 5, 6 lads, they go out for a walk on the head any place. They could go to Mall of Virginia or any place. The whole gang of them, for development, you know. You could meet them any place, but you wouldn't like to meet them. They'd rough you up a wee bit now. Some of them. The man that lived in a small house, and it's like down under the road. When they think he was after putting on a big fire, they'd go up and put a bag on the top of the chimney. Smoke them out of it. After the harms at the back of it. Nobody killed or injured her, that's for sure.
The Hollow Lane was our playground when we were young. So we'd be down that lane every night after someone, and then they'd say we're out on patrol. After the women, and making nests in the hedge and bringing lads down and showing them, and says that there was women there and no one in it at all. The 2 old boys used to come down with me. We'd make a nest in the hedge and throw sweet papers round in it. And they come down and one lad and says, well, because your boy, he was on or there. And just we used to have some fun there. And it all started at the Hollow Lane. And with that Mrs. Cock, Mrs. McEntee used to go down to Keely to her at night. And they were talking away one April in the house. And when they come out, myself and Terry Farley were outside him. We went across the road and we hid behind the ditch. And Julia came out and we went up the road with Mrs. McEntee. When she was gone, was in a big line of washing out. We got a pillow cover and brought it out and put it over a root in the ditch. I think it was a man, white shirt. She come up the road anyhow and she stood for a while looking at it. She was afraid to pass. And the next thing you could hear her say, "Oh Jesus, my good pillow cover."
Do you remember Clark's shop?
Clark, Tommy's. That's the fella that we used to make the nest in the hedge and bring him down and show him there was a woman in it. Jesus, because you bug you, he'd always say. We Tommy. And if you was talking to the priest, he'd even say, "And Jesus, because you bug you, Father." That's the way he'd keep talking. I remember his mother even. She was a teacher. After the war, we couldn't get cigarettes. And the boys would be all on the crossroads there at night and none of them would have cigarettes. And go down and ask Tommy and Rose, the two of them were in the shop, the sister. Oh, no cigarettes. So they'd hang around there for a while, no cigarettes. So they come back up to the crossroads and they'll make up a story and it's all lies. And go down and lie down on bags of flour and everything in the shop and want to be hinting at the other about the story. And Rose would want to hear all the news. Next thing she pulled a box of cigarettes from under the counter and hand them all cigarettes to hear all the night, all lies. She thought it was a big story she could hear. He was the first man to have a hackney car around the country.
But I used to hear my mother talking about the Clarks, all right. Yeah, they were doing a very big business in the shop. They used to buy eggs, and I know a neighbour of ours used to bring his eggs across by our place out the pass we would go to Mass and up to Clark's shop. Andy Dunn, he only had a few hens, but they were so simple then, you know, those times, and he would be saying, "Oh, the hens are laying so well," and he would come, he would have a big bucket of eggs, and I think the half of the bucket would be papers in the bottom of the bucket, and he'd be telling us as well as the hens were laying. Maybe our hens wouldn't be laying well at all. That's the way they were. They were so simple.
My name is Anne Clark, and I'm standing here in the yard of the old residence of the Clark's shop. And the parlour was the lower side, and there was seemingly the egg house was built at the end of that. Everything was sold in the shop, everything. There would be bran and inya meal and flour and pollard, I think they call it, for pigs, giving it to animals and things, you know. Heart's Delight was the name of the flour. You'd have to return the bags to the shop, and I used to hear other stories that the women would bring them home and bleach them and make sheets of them out of the flour bags. Lamp oil, this they used to call it, paraffin oil. The tank was even in the back of the shop. There was no hygiene rules or anything like that in the shop. There was sweets, bullseyes, penny bars, silvermint sweets, tea, sugar, you name it, everything was sold in the shop. Bread, batch breads that were all batch loaves. They'd be all in the one big batch, and everyone would come in and break off the loaf and bring it with them. Probably his mother and father had the radio at that time, and it was a big thing that time to have a radio, and they all, neighbours and customers like, you know, they'd all gather together when there'd be football matches on or different occasions on, and they'd be in the yard. The yard would be full, we're told, of people, and outside on the road listening to the radio. And it was great excitement. Then he had a Hackney car. He was into the Hackney car end of it at that time too. I don't remember anything about the Hackney car, or that. I would love to have had photographs of it, but I haven't. And he used to do Hackney runs for people in them times, which was new. I think he was the first in Cross to have a car too. So two of the shop ledgers that would be from 1930, I think, up to 1961 or 2.
And why did you keep those?
Just memories and that, I don't know why.
No, but you obviously feel they're
important. Yeah, well, they are really, you know, not that the many would remember the people, but I do remember a lot. I don't remember them, but I know the names when I look down in the ledgers and that, I know the names of the people and that, you know.
See the date.
This is Clark's shop. What is that book?
It's people that for the shopping.
Shillings.
From Clark's shop.
Zero.
Clark.
Me, you pitching me.
Did you come across my bill there?
Pound of lard.
Pound of lard.
Yes,
For the pudding. For the pudding.
Oh, dear. Fry the bread on it.
This bill. Oh, that's 1934.
You doesn't have to worry now. 2 pence.
2 pence for the set.
But you know, remember, my dear ladies, it was hard to get the 2 pence.
Oh, that's it.
And
I
then
don't think
the
we
old,
were.
The old £7.
We didn't do much shopping then.
When you go for the fresh loaf of bread, and by the time I get down home with the fresh loaf of bread, I'd have the whole inside eggs. Yeah, I remember.
All there was a 2 crust. He was passionate and sense.
Oh, he was, yeah. And great old stories to be told there and everything. It was great fun, like, you know.
Yeah.
Listening to them talking.
That's one of the gates that my dad made.
Oh, cheapers.
They see the white bars going through.
Off the wheel of the car.
That's the shoeing of the
The
car.
wheel, yeah.
They're shoeing up the car.
Yeah,
I know the Simons. That's the
You know the 2-story. It's the most intact older house, isn't
It's a
it?
place the people who took it over, they never knocked it or anything.
No,
I'm so
and
happy to see
fabulous.
that.
So much air going through it. It's bone dry. Like,
My name is Thomas Simons, and I was reared until I was 10-year-old here in the house beside us.
What did you know about Jack of the Bog?
I just used to hear he lived in the bog. I thought it was amazing that Jack of the Bog, he got a name like that in the first place. It was a nickname he had. But I knew where his house was, all right. You Missy well, like she used to call to us regular now for Kayleys. And we'd go to her as well, and she was a nice lady. You'd have a visitor, she'd have tea and always have cakes and buns and everything. She was a lovely, friendly person. Sad to look back and see no one in them now at all, you know, all the derelict little houses and the life that went on in those houses in the times gone past. For instance, my godfather used to come down to us and we'd play drafts in the house for hours on end. He'd come down, he lived up in the Muller Road, and the fun playing the drafts was absolutely, it was a simple game, but it was good fun and you enjoyed it. And he'd go off for himself then. Every time he came, he'd bring a big bag of sweets to us as well. So it was everything was nice. That's the way I remember it anyway, yeah.
This is Missy Keating. This is Missy Keating, no?
heritage that abounds us. Maybe if the children want to come forward that want to say the poems.
This is Nature by Cavan. Nature, nature everywhere, can't you feel springs in the air? Frogs are jumping, lambs are hopping, beautiful flowers all are popping. Children playing at cross school, the sun is out and the sky is blue. Bumblebees buzzing around, daffodils bleating across church ground. Quilca lake sparkling and deep, floating along while dipping our feet. Nature and cross are beautiful, living here is also peaceful. Nature poem by Donna Lynch. Nature is all around, the sun gleaming off across church spire, bunches of primroses growing on the hollow lane, busy birds building nests, squirrels scrambling, acorn seeking, frogs jumping in Grandad's pond, green grass growing in cross football field, third-class children on a big bug hunt, trooping daffodils along the Mulla Road, little lambs playing frisky games, raindrops making lots of puddles, hens laying tasty eggs, leaves growing from the green buds. What a wonderful world God has created for me, you and everyone.
Yeah, there's also an ant in there.
There.
Yeah, that's it. See the There with the bed. Skewy.